Okay, Jai Hind everybody. I think it's a great day today, and we shall be hearing a different perspective of a particular issue. Actually, when the countries evolve, at different timeline, how we deal with different countries or how different countries have dealt with us have, various issues. And invariably, in hindsight, though we can, sound intelligent and take certain actions for our future improvement, but the relationship of nations is pretty complex, especially those who have been the neighbors. And these peculiarities are more pronounced in case of the number of countries in South Asia, Southeast Asia, where people have become independent after colonial rulers because they created certain kind of borders or buffer states or certain kind of working arrangements which were manageable then, but now with the sovereign concept of nations, where the territorial integrity and delineation has become very important, and therefore there are a lot of problems amongst them. And similar is the case with India and China. And there have been various writers and people have articulated their views based on their experience, their perceptions, how it should be done, who was right, who was wrong, or leaving aside beside right or wrong, how do we resolve the problem, and any problem is not a problem which is independent of so many other mutual interdependencies, like you see in case of China. I mean, Galwan happened and we were tremendous amount of poor relationship on that ground, but still the trade was flourishing because of there are certain other realities which make an impact on mutual relationship. So we are privileged that Brig Ranjeev has himself physically traveled, the entire border, right from Karakoram Pass to the last point, and besides, uh, being a veteran of both Kargil War and during Eastern Ladakh event, he in any case was part of that Kailash operation. So you'll hear something today, which even will be new thing for me also. So, without much ado, we will request Bhavvi to introduce the speaker, and then thereafter it's all yours. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Brigadier K Ranjeev Singh, Youth Seva Medal, is an alumnus of Canning College, Lucknow University, and Indian Military Academy, Dehradun. The officer was commissioned into 10th Battalion, the Dogra Regiment, in December 1991. The officer has served with his battalion in most operational theatres, including the Andaman and Nicobar Command and counter-insurgency operation areas in Northeast and Jammu and Kashmir. He has successfully commanded his battalion in Amritsar and Manipur, Operation Hifazat. In his 35 years long military career, the officer has tenanted various staff and instructional assignments, including GSO 3 of an independent infantry brigade group along the line of control in a high altitude area during Operation Vijay, GSO 1 of an infantry brigade on LC in high altitude area, instructor in young officer wing at Infantry School Mao, director at headquarters of Ministry of Defence, and Colonel GS in a command headquarters. He successfully raised and commanded an infantry brigade as a part of the Mountain Division, which participated in Operation Snow Leopard in eastern Ladakh, wherein the newly raised formation was awarded with 27 decorations, with all three infantry battalions being awarded with unit citations. The officer has had three tenures along the LAC, both in eastern and western sectors. The officer was posted as Deputy GOC of Counter-Insurgency Force Headquarter before getting posted as Commandant Dogra Regimental Center, from where he superannuated. Having attended all mandatory courses, the officer was awarded with Chief of Army Staff Commendation twice and was conferred with Youth Seva Medal on the occasion of 72nd Republic Day. The officer is currently working with CENJOWS as Deputy Director General.
Thank you, Vaibhavi. Thank you, sir. Uh, it's a great day for me because today is the day that I raised my formation as part of a Army Headquarter Reserve, and today happens to be the ninth raising day of the formation. And I was fortunate that in my service I got to serve on the LAC, in Arunachal Pradesh and had an extensive exposure of the LAC that lies in Aksai Chin. Uh, as an offensive formation commander as part of Army Headquarters Reserve, and also had an opportunity to plan operations when situation was adverse and be part of Operation Snow Leopard. What I'm going to cover in this presentation is basically understanding the dispute with China with respect to Aksai Chin and what is the way ahead, the resolution of the same, is it possible? And if it is possible, which way we should go and how it can be done. In my understanding, we are a mature democracy with now around 77 years behind us. And China, a growing power in the world, sharing northern borders with us. I think they share the largest borders with us. There is enough reason to resolve outstanding issues and perhaps foster relationship which is uh, aspirational and in consonance with the aspiration of the society on both sides of the border. With this as a prelude, uh, I plan to cover my presentation with understanding of the borders, why the borders exist. Understanding geography, it is very important. During my tenure in both Arunachal as well as in Ladakh, and later on coming back and interacting with my friend circle and other peers, I realized that most of us do not even understand geography. A lot of Indians, particularly in mainland India, do not even know areas in Arunachal Pradesh, in Ladakh, not for any other reason, because these are inaccessible for most of the independent India. They remain inaccessible, and they are not very lucrative from trade, economy. The only places which are very lucrative to visit are tourist destinations, which of course are becoming popular and a lot of people are visiting. But areas close to the borders, because of the difficult terrain and also because very low opportunities there, very less density of population, so they're not visited very frequently by most of us. That is why understanding geography is important. Historical context, of course, gives the rise to the dispute itself, and what are the resolution scenarios as per me as a military mind, and some recommendations and way ahead. Disclaimer before I start, the views that I'm going to express, they are my personal. They are not supported by military as such, or of course CENJOWS. Since I'm posted in CENJOWS, doesn't mean that this is a CENJOWS view. These are based on individual experiences, interaction, and study of terrain, geography, which I consider myself very fortunate because, as the DG was saying, I'm a rare commodity who's been to Karakoram Pass and up to Gaya Peak. That is the length of the border that we share with China and Aksai Chin. This is a realistic ground assessment and our military capability that I have analyzed, and based on that, I'm recommending certain propositions. This is based on aggregation of perceptions of war fighters who have been, deployed in these areas, and there is an attempt to match our strategic aspirations using the terrain and ground knowledge, and based on that, certain recommendations have been formulated. Next, please. Now, why do borders exist? We have to take our mind and understand, a community, a religious group of villages following same practices, culture, they always define boundaries. And that is how the sovereign nations over a period of time had defined their borders. The primary thing content in a border is population. It is the population which decides or defines a geographical boundary of a nation. Then other resources. The borders are defined because of the resources. In some cases, water is an important resource. You want control on water. You want control on resources. In case of Ukraine and Russia war, perhaps resource is one major reason why Russia is at war with Ukraine and they want to take some areas of Donbass. Geography, because of the nature of the lay of ground, uh, at times the borders come up. In our case, Himalayan ranges gave us natural geographical boundaries, and the highlands of Tibet in further north became a buffer zone. So similarly, geography becomes very important for defining borders. Strategic value, this is basically pertaining to a military point of view where armies, they want to use a particular piece of ground for strategic reason, maybe for defending, maybe for providing depth, or maybe for exploiting a particular piece of ground for the future, expeditionary reasons. And of course, governance. In our case, when we look at Aksai Chin, the dispute relates to governance. There have been kingdoms, there have been expeditions, there have been, British expeditions, army expeditions, cartographers who have generally, based on their experience, drawn a line on the map and divided the borders. And of course, the taxation, the way the kings and kingdoms spread, and they used to collect taxes from people. So borders are never arbitrary. They always emerge out of complex interplay of human geography and strategic use of space. So this we have to understand. So it's a complex issue. A border does not emerge on its own. There are reasons for it. Just a prelude, we have to take our mind back to the time that we gained independence. We were part of a colonial power. And at that time, the power center lied in the United Kingdom in our west, uh, Japan in our east, and Germany in Europe. So the today's power plays did not exist then. And since we were part of the British colony, whatever the Britishers left, we assumed or we feel that that part of the territory is ours. World War II, we participated with the British, and China, our immediate northern neighbor, was nowhere as far as the World War II was concerned. Then there were two different ideologies which were very aggressively trying to spread after World War. That was democracy, that was Western ideology, and the Russian-based communism. For us, the problem was that our northern border, across northern border, China became communist, and the West wanted the communism to be challenged and confined to areas where it was already existing, and they did not want it to be spread. So that is where we became independent, and we had a communist neighbor, and we sided with the West because we wanted to restrain the expansion of communism. China and India gained independence around the same time. We became independent in 47, they became independent in 49. And the moment the communist China became independent, they started uh, promulgating their future expansion or expansionist designs. Like immediately, Tibet came into play at that time. Post World War realignment began immediately on culmination of World War, where there was a Western Bloc, and you would be aware of the famous wall which was erected in Germany, and there was a Eastern Bloc. At that time, we just chose not to join any bloc, so we were part of non-aligned movement. Most of the economies in the West, particularly, they got involved in post-war reconstruction because they had undergone a lot of destruction in their respective countries. And then came up the Cold War blocks, where the nuclear power East and West bloc, they wanted to grow their influences, and they had two different blocks, and they wanted nations to join either of the bloc. Western Hemisphere was first to become economically well off and also becoming a military power, and this was led by the United States of America. Closer home, as far as India and China relations are concerned, India-UK relations, though we gained independence, a non-violent independence from the United Kingdom, but we took from them whatever they left, including the military. So we were more of a British military that became Indian army. The Britishers, by the time they were leaving, their level of interest and involvement in dividing the boundaries were very casual. In fact, the cartographers had not even visited certain areas. Their experiences of dividing the boundary, particularly this happened in Aksai Chin and even on our western borders. India was a greater military power vis-a-vis China when we became independent. China had got independence 2 years after us, and by that time they started moving towards Tibet. We were a better economy and better military power also. However, the expansion of Russia and communism led to us joining a non-alignment movement, because at that time the government of that day decided that we have to follow an independent foreign policy and we will not join any bloc. And that time even China was part of NAM. Now Kashmir versus Eastern Ladakh is an interesting subject. Our focus after gaining independence was on Kashmir Valley. We were not at that time concerned about the Eastern Ladakh or Aksai Chin that we are talking about, to the extent that we had a very small presence of military. It used to be known as Romeo and Zulu zones, zones. And most of our military was either in Kashmir Valley or the Jammu region. And we were more biased toward Pakistan. A policy flip flop because of at that time the appreciation that we had that China is a friendly neighbor and it will not carry out anything. There was a policy flip flop where we did not have a vision for Eastern Ladakh or Aksai Chin, or we never considered it a problem at that point in time. Forward posture of 1960 and the war of 1962, they are a landmark event in our relationship with China. And the Chinese regional hegemony post 2000, if you really see their economic growth with military modernization commenced after 1990, and 2000 they actually started asserting themselves. So in this background, you will have to appreciate as to what is the problem in Aksai Chin and how and where the resolution lies. As for the border delineation is concerned, there are some internationally acknowledged principles which are followed. Watershed principle is the most common, particularly in the regions where there are mountains. And in our case, even along the Pakistan border, in a lot of places, the LC runs along watershed. Similarly, the LAC, in most of the area in eastern part of the border with China, including Aksai Chin, the LAC actually runs along the watershed. Though it is not acknowledged as a border, but it runs along the watershed. Thelwag principle is basically for riverbed. We are not affected as far as our border with China is concerned. Then the principle of median line, where there is a claimed, two sides are claiming areas on either side of a particular boundary, and then you decide a mutually agreed median line and you say, okay, our borders will run with it. China used the median line principle with Nepal, and it has successfully resolved its border issues with Nepal. Then physical geography, natural resources, we have a natural feature, we have the Himalayas, so which becomes a natural feature which divides the boundary, or you may have a river which is passing through, which you say that, okay, this is the boundary. Geometric methods not used much, but yes, in Africa they have been used, and also in some countries in Asia. Equidistances for maritime boundary, cultural criteria. This is an area where we have a conflict because of our cultural overlaps also. Effective control is again part of the same thing, that China claimed that we had control there and we say we had control there. So that is where the conflict comes up. Security buffer zones, this does not exist in our case, but yes, not an established norm, but we do have buffer zones. And colonial administrative boundaries, which were drawn by the Britishers, like McMahon Line. In our case, some areas are defined by McMahon Line, and the Myanmar border that China has settled is on the principle of McMahon Line mostly. Now coming to understanding the geography. Now this is important because till the time we don't understand what is the dynamics which geography brings in to a problem, we will not be able to perhaps look at the resolutions. Uh, as far as Aksai Chin is concerned, you have to see the map on the left as far as we are concerned. The line which is in purple is the LC and LAC. Onto the west is the LC and onto the right is the LAC. And what is highlighted is the part of Aksai Chin where we have a dispute with China. Now, Ladakh actually stands for land of passes. Altitude on our side uh, varies from 10,000, mostly 10,000, and goes up to 25,000. Now, why I'm highlighting this? The lower altitude, the 10,000, is the place where population resides. In the higher altitude, there's hardly any population. It's connected by two major axes as far as we are concerned, Zojila and Rohtang, and it is divided into two major districts, Leh and Kargil. And on the eastern Ladakh side, along the LAC, there are just around 10 odd villages, and that too in the central sector, which I'll explain later. In the northern area or northern sector, there is no village, there's no population. So only people who are seen there are familiar people in OGs or ITBP or people who are involved in road construction. You do not find any local Ladakhi population there. Similarly, in the central area where we say that these are villages and Ladakhis are there, most of the villages are abandoned for good about 7-8 months. They go into the hinterland, and these are the Changthang tribes, or we locally used to refer them as Ribus, who are living in the areas because of the reason of grazing. Onto the right side, you see the map of now China, but in that, if you see the portion in dark brown, is what exactly is China. And China is amalgamation of different regions in which Tibet is also now a part. Coming to the area which is astride, which is highlighted on the map, what we refer to as Aksai Chin. Go to the next slide, please. Is the Nagari prefecture. It is a region, and the county which is adjacent to us is Rudok. And total population in around 5 major towns is around 11,000 here, with around 150 odd Ladakhis still there with them. Balance are Tibetans. Now, this area is higher than our area. The average height here is around 15,500 feet. So it is basically, Tibet is higher than us. And Shikane is a major town. Sorry for the spelling mistake. It should be town. That is the biggest population center. And from the present LAC, it's good about 70 odd kilometers away. Now look at the population density along the LAC. Go to the next slide, please. This is again important to understand. 6% of China lives in the region which is highlighted to the west of China, and 94% of China is towards the east. And Arunachal Pradesh is somewhere where the bottom of the line is. And further towards the area which I'm talking about, Aksai Chin West, the population density is even less than 1. So along the LAC, there's hardly any population. It is basically on the other side, the BD regiments of China, that is a paramilitary force of theirs, and in our case, ITBP and Indian Army. So this slide shows the major communication centers and the roads connection and connectivity. Now, all of you would have heard about the famous Western Highway, which was developed by China between 1954 to 57. It was completed. Western Highway was developed basically to assert its authority and control on the areas of western border and Tibet, that is Aksai Chin, and integrate Tibet with them. Now, the core of Western Highway, which is the strategic connect to Kashgar, further towards north and west, is on an average 100 kilometers to the east of the line of actual control. The closest it gets is close to a place by the name of Shikwane, and thereafter it goes from the edge of Pangongso Lake, with that lies in China, and further north. And from there, it has connection to the borders. So most of the areas which it is manning are connected by road and good roads. And similarly, on our side also, we have a good connectivity of most of the areas which we are manning. On to the right slide, you see the major uh, townships, basically Shikwane, Rudolph, No, and Sumakshi. These are the major townships. So what these people have done, they have collected some population of this region and put them in town and given them some kind of employment in these areas. Now you have to understand the geography of China mainland. It is very important for us to understand from military point of view. The so-called Western Highway from center of China, from the area of Chengdu and Lanzhou, Xi'an, uh, is good about 470 kilometers from Aksai Chin. And if you look at Beijing or the east coast of China, add another 1500 to 2000 kilometers. So you are looking at an area which is almost 7,000 kilometers away from the east coast, which is the most populated and economically rich area of China, developed area of China. And similarly, the northern loop of the highway, which goes to Kashgar and so-called CPEC, is around 5,000 plus. 3,000 from the central region and add another 15 2,000. And China and Pakistan have been tom-tomming about CPEC. A word about CPEC. If you analyze and study CPEC, it stays closed for good about 6 to 7 months in a year. And it is a demonstration of technology. It has a reason why China has done that. But today, the kind of trade that takes place is very limited, and it has got its own challenges and difficulties. Now, coming to the historical background, this is also important to understand because the conflict is on control. China takes it back to 500 BC. We also take it back to the ruler, like the Dogra ruler, the Sikh ruler. So the Indian Empire, this is a map which I dug out of 1909, the British map. And most of the maps that I saw of pre-independence, the area of Tibet was never part of India. I'm talking Tibet, not Aksai Chin. And this is a very clear demarcation of boundary because of the Himalayas. And looking at the north, since the region was very difficult terrain-wise and not easy to populate, it was never conquered as such. Now, looking at Sikh and Dogra Empire, the Sikh Empire had General Zorawar Singh, everybody's heard about him. But Zorawar never went into the northern areas. He died in Tibet, but he died in Taklakot, which is close to Nepal. And he fought the Tibetan army. And as far as the Dogra Empire is concerned, if you really analyze the Dogra Empire, it was extending more towards Gilgit and Skadu, not towards eastern Ladakh. Now, coming to the British India and casual cartography, why I bring this casualness in it is because Britishers were always chary about expansion of the Russians, and they launched certain expedition. A very popular one was Colonel Young Husband expedition into Tibet, which went from Sikkim and came back from Nepal. Prior to that, it went toward the northern area also, and also there were various cartographers who demarcated boundary based on their understanding of the border. As far as China is concerned, immediately after independence, it stated its strategy, it stated its ambition to integrate Tibet. And at that time, whether it was India or US, nobody objected to it. Even we did not, we accepted it. The only dispute remained and which came up later was Aksai Chin. But as such, China's rule over Tibet, we never challenged. 1962 war is known to most of us. It was in response to our forward policy, and our forward policy was initiated because we felt that China has started encroaching into our areas. And there has been an Indian Parliament resolution which took place sometime in the month of November while the war was on, where the Parliament passed a resolution that we took a vow that we will take every inch back from China. And to the end, we have 2020 standoff, and where we have started talking about pre-April 2020 position. We say status quo ante, that restore that situation. So you just see from a time when the boundaries were not demarcated, and it was to the rulers and kings, to the British cartographer, then Tibet being included or integrated by China, and then a forward posture, 62 war, parliament resolution, and finally we are now talking about pre-22 2020 April status quo. Next, please. There's a very popular chart or a drawing which everybody shows. So I have also included in my presentation just to bring out the complexity of cartography. So there are many lines: foreign line, McCarthy-MacDonald line, India claim line, Xinjiang Tibet road, then lines or points to which the Chinese carried out their patrolling. These are all historical issues. Why I'm bringing them up is that perhaps today the ground situation is different from this. And China does not accept these lines. As far as who drew these lines, we also did not draw these lines. These lines were drawn by Britishers. When we were being ruled by them. These lines, in none of these lines, you have a kingdom line. That this was the Sikh kingdom till here, or this was the Dogra kingdom here. So China has managed to successfully link and integrate Tibet to the perceived claim line. So they have a perception of the claim line, and they have gradually what we have started calling salami slicing is basically they integrating those areas which they claim to be theirs. Now, the disputed position. Next. Now, how much is Aksai Chin is also debatable. Whether it is 38,000 kilometers exactly, because nobody has physically gone and measured it. But generally, it is talked of as 38,000 kilometers. This is what we claim that China has got with them. We say that Johnson-Ardek line is the line that we accept as a border. And we claim that customary Ladakis, culture, and legal foundation, because our trade used to take place that side, so our boundary is still there. So again, we inherited it from the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir, and I brought it in the beginning that the king of Jammu and Kashmir was more focused towards the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Next slide. Now in this comes the area of Shaksgam, which is again talked about. Now Shaksgam, if you see the line in purple in the north above the shaded region, this is the line that we claim belongs to us. It goes along the Agil range, and Shaksgam follows or rather falls south of this and north of Siachen Glacier. So we have been saying that this part is also ours. It was part of the J&K kingdom or princely state at that time, and the J&K state extended till there. So that is our claim. Next slide, please. No, go back. Now we also have to see the Chinese position on this. China maintains that Aksai Chin, the area that I showed as 38,000 kilometers, inalienable part of its territory, internal to Xinjiang area of China. It claims historical sovereignty under Qing dynasty. Now, Qing dynasty dates back, so they have taken a dynasty which is much before the J&K kingdom also. It continues to have effective administration there. Now, Xinjiang Tibet highway was constructed after 1950, completed 1957. So since it has got a highway, it says that this area is R, and it favors McCartney-McDonald line showing Aksai Chin as part of Chinese border. So that is where the cartography problem comes. Next slide. Here I'm covering certain historical milestone. It is important to understand these. Then only we can talk about resolutions. So 49, China gains independence, and 1950 it starts. The army PLA starts marching into Tibet, and somewhere in 1952 we have a political commissioner in Lhasa. We withdraw that, and the US says that Tibet is part of China, and India at that time recognizes Tibet as part of China. This is in 1954. And there is a statement in the parliament which the prime minister has given, wherein say that China, in its last 100 years history, nobody has been able to defeat China. So Tibet belongs to them. So this was our position then. Then between 54 to 57, they completed the 219 construction, that is to link or integrate the area of Aksai Chin with Tibet. And in 1959, Dalai Lama, with around 10,000 followers, was exiled. He came over to India. And China, because of that integration of Tibet, became our neighbor. Till then, Tibet was a nation which was a buffer. And India imposed a trade embargo on China in 1959 when all this happened. Now, you have to understand that in 1952, 53, and 54, we were providing supplies to PLA. We were maintaining PLA because China could not do from its mainland. And in 59, we had to impose a trade embargo on this area of China because we were, at that time, we felt aggrieved. And since the Western Highway was constructed and the Lhasa and mainland China was conducted, they said that we will manage this population ourselves. Then came 1960 to 1962 period, wherein Zhou Enlai visited Delhi, seeking a compromise in April, and there he informally offered the East-West swap. East-West stands for East is our Arunachal and West is the Aksai Chin for them. So they said that, okay, you settle Aksai Chin, you leave it to us, and we will not talk about Arunachal. And in 1960, Nehru ordered a forward policy that we have to guard and protect our borders, and some outposts were created. And this was a precursor for the famous 1962 war. And October, November was quite bloody. Very heavy fighting happened, particularly in east in Arunachal Pradesh. Now, during this period, interestingly, there were two ceasefires, and they were unilateral. The first unilateral ceasefire, the Chinese withdrew to the McMahon line. They said, okay, we will go back. And we did not accept the ceasefire. And then they again launched attack and they threatened to come till Assam. That is the time we accepted the second ceasefire. And this is the period when the matter came up in the parliament and the famous parliament resolution was passed. Now, then there was a period of lull post-war, 1964 to 79, where nothing much happened as far as the border dispute was concerned, except for in 1964 in Cairo, during the NAM conference, China offered to settle the border differences again with India. There was a change in equilibrium as far as Tibet is concerned, and in 1979, there was a famous policy articulation by Deng Xiaoping, wherein he said that border demarcation is a key problem between India and China. So between 81 to 87 thereafter, the formal talks began, and there were 8 rounds of talk. And Deng Xiaoping had given a formula to the Indian foreign minister in 1979, again talking about East-West. So this is a very interesting thing. Now, how did it translate or what it contained is a gray area, which is not documented much. But in general, it is talked of that the China would acknowledge the McMahon line in the eastern theater if India acknowledges the Chinese claim line in the Aksai Chin area. Following this, from 1988 to 2025, there have been talks, many rounds of talk. The relationship improved in 2003, wherein we accepted Tibet, control of China on Tibet, and 2005 we opened up Nathula. This was followed by, it was a joint working group initially, and then it was in 2005 onward, it has been a senior representative talks, and you had the 24th round of talks in 2005. So the talks are happening, but the situation on the border remains same, and we all are privy as to how China has been regularly changing the stated position with respect to Aksai Chin. They have recently announced some new counties, and also in Arunachal Pradesh, where they are renaming certain areas. It is basically to strengthen their position of negotiation. Now coming to boundary dispute Aksai Chin. This is the area which I'm going to talk about. This is the general boundary cogmap. It is divided into three sectors: the north, the central, and the east. Now, central, I have been to the disputed areas, and central is not a dispute at all. There is no problem there. To be very frank, the area of Baravati is the only problem, and it can be resolved. As far as east is concerned and north, these are the challenge. Our position and the Chinese position is flashed on the viewfoil. Basically, there is a difference in what they are going to accept and this is what we are accepting on the line, on the demarcation. Now, coming specifically to Aksai Chin, go to the next slide. Now, this basically shows the complete area of Aksai Chin. It is very difficult to, either you take a Google imagery on a map. These are the maps used by the pilots, and these maps can cover the entire area. It's a big area. So I've highlighted the disputed area. There is a mutually agreed disputed area. There is a differing LSC perception, and there is a increased area of transgressions. Transgressions are a recent phenomena around 2 decades back, and differing LSC perceptions have always been there, and mutually agreed disputes are basically two: the Trig Height in the north and Demchok village. Now, as far as the area is concerned, if you really look at it, it's not very big in comparison to what we are talking about. In mutually agreed, it's 163 square kilometers. Differing perception is 1,502 square kilometers. Transgression is 80 square kilometers. And total disputed area in Aksai Chin is 1,745 square kilometers. And out of this, areas which are highlighted in green are the areas where though disputed, but there are firmed positions which are either under us or with them. And also I wish to highlight here that if you look at the areas which are on the north, east, and in these areas, there is no population except for Demchok. Demchok population is also very less. And in Chumar, most of the areas, and Chushul, most of the areas which are, it is not that some villager is losing his land, or on the other side, some villager is losing a land. These are areas which are based on the perception of LAC, and both the armies are sitting facing each other in these areas. I'll cover the Shaksgam Valley also. Now, this is a very interesting thing. A lot of people talk about it, but one has to experience a glacier to understand Shaksgam Valley. Shaksgam Valley is a region which is sandwiched between intra-col, which is with us, and on the north is the Agil range. So there is a Karakoram range going, and there is a Agil range going. In between lies the Shaksgam Valley. And why this valley is important and why it is being talked of. Firstly, it is being talked of that this area was ours, and The kingdom of Jammu and Kashmir had a boundary north of Agil range. But nobody ever lived here, and no king or his tax collector or anybody, revenue official, ever went in these areas. But geographically, a boundary has been put on the map. And area north of Indrakol is the area. There is basically a glacier which runs into Shaksgam, which is good about 25 kilometers, and then the Shaksgam Valley starts. Shaksgam Valley is an altitude of the base. Shaksgam Valley base is at an altitude around 43 to 4500 meters. So if you can orient yourself, I have marked Indrakol. Indrakol is not occupied by us. Siala is the last post we have on Saltoro Ridge. Indrakol we patrol because from Siala to go to Indrakol, it is around on a good weather day, if you're lucky, it will take around 10 to 12 hours. And it is Indrakol is somewhere around 6,500 meters, come close to 21. So it is difficult to survive in these areas. So yes, we do go, Indian Army goes, patrols till Indrakol and comes back. Now look at the next map. This gives the positions a little more clearly. In 1963, Pakistan has acceded this area to China, and China at that time maintained this position that since J&K is a disputed, this we will talk later when the resolution of J&K disputes happens. But what have they done in Siala? Oh, sorry, not Siala, in Shaksgam. There are reports of Chinese trying to construct a road. Now the issue is if you take area north of Agil, you see the Agil Pass, which is number 6. So if you see that number 6 point, the Kashgar Kunjareb road that goes along this alignment. And this is from Indrakol. If you look at Agil Pass is good about 150 kilometers further north. This area is also popularly known as the third pole. Why? Because this is perhaps the highest area, uninhabited area, and K2, which is the second highest peak in the world, 8,600. That is also there. So on a good day, you can see K2. So what I'm trying to bring out here is that we are contesting Shaksgam Valley. Most of us see that, yes, this is a territory. But can we exercise control on Shaksgam is what we have to understand. Indrakol is a very big barrier. From Indrakol, you have to roll down to occupy Shaksgam Valley. Can you connect 75 kilometers of Siachen Glacier and then another 25 kilometers, another glacier? So there is a challenge in this area. In fact, the complete area. Now, if Chinese are trying to connect, what they are trying to connect is basically a track which can connect Agil Pass to Shaksgam Valley. Why China keep harping of Shaksgam Valley is basically a pressure point. There is no population in this area. And if it stations its troops, then good luck to them. There is a problem in living in these areas. So look at the mainland China where it lies. What about 7,000-8,000 kilometers? You bringing your troops outposts and putting them there and then sustaining them. It's a challenge. But yes, for the purpose of negotiation, it becomes a good piece of ground. Next slide, please. Now, having seen the geography of the area, I'm just bringing up certain resolution scenarios which are possible, which should be looked at. Let's look at what China has done with other countries first. What I've summarized it has gained only 35% territory. It has given away 65% territory to buy peace with these countries. Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Vietnam, North Korea, Mongolia, negligible change. Afghanistan, 0% change. Pakistan, 100% what Pakistan had is given it to China. So they are not interested. Nepal, negligible. Myanmar, negligible. Laos, 0%. So China has, over a period, settled its boundary problem with everybody. except for two countries, Bhutan and India. So there lies a challenge in this, and there also lies opportunity in this. Why I say opportunity? Look at the negotiation they have done. They have given 65%, they have ceded, including with Russia on an average. Next slide. Now, if we apply the internationally known principles, watershed, I brought out earlier, 80% of the LACs as it is along watershed. So in a negotiation, any nation which has to go across the watershed has got a challenge. So if good negotiations happen, I think a lot of problems can be resolved on watershed line. Median line, it can be drawn based on perception. China says that my boundary goes till that point, and we say our boundary goes till that point. So we can either deciding on a line in common based on a geographical feature or a natural geometrical line. Equidistance is not applicable to us except for in Pengongso Lake. So Pengongso is also very interesting thing. Most of the Pengongso lies in China. In our side of the borders, Pengongso is salty, so water cannot be used. But on the Chinese side, towards Rudok, the water can be used. Pengongso is an interesting lake. It has got a tourist factor, but I think we have only 10% of Pengongso with us. 90% is with them. So if you look at the famous finger 4 and you draw a straight line across to an area by the name of Lukung, which is with us. So there is no dispute as far as the water boundaries are concerned. So it can be settled in that area. A Thalweg principle is not applicable. Geometrical, in some areas we can think about it. Cultural and colonial is something which is creating a problem. This is the trigger for claimed areas. So what are the options? Go to the next slide. One is that we keep negotiating as we are doing. We have a senior representative carrying out border negotiation, and when things are bad, you have core commander negotiation, and it can continue. China has got endless stamina. I have been part of one of the border meetings, and it is amazing. It can start in the morning at 6 o'clock and go endlessly. And they go, take break, they rest, they come back, because their red lines are very clearly defined. They don't have flexibility in their hands. So what I'm trying to say is that it's a nation with endless stamina. We have to watch out for that. And it is developing overwhelming capacities also. So that we have to be seized of. We should know that. Unsettled border to a great extent suits them. Like what we are talking about collusivity, what we are talking about keeping India under pressure, keeping our forces tied up, it suits them, because then as far as they are concerned, Southeast Asia is open to them, the South is also open to them. But the moment our forces get free, there is a problem to them also. They can be contested. Maintain existing position and convert LAC to international border. To a great extent, this is what is accepted already. It is a position which is existing on the ground. In fact, if you look at Aksai Chin border, most of the areas disputes don't exist. Dispute exists, I showed you, in around 1700 square kilometers in pockets. Balance, the line runs along the watershed only. This may not be acceptable to China for only reason that you have to concede to their claim line. And let me also share with you that to a great extent the claim line is with them, or is not being patrolled by either side today. If you don't settle it, it may again result in a conflict in future, like it happened in the famous Galwan incident. Look at 1960, pre-1960 position when they were offering that, and in 1979 when they offered it to our foreign minister. That is doable. I think that should be reopened, but China may not like to do it now. implement resolution passed by the Indian Parliament. So there are two resolutions passed by the Parliament, one in 62 and one I think in 92. The second one was for getting POK, and this one is for getting Aksai Chin. We have to develop our capability and capacity if we have to do that. We may have the desire to do that, but we will not work towards our capability building and capacity building. So till the time we are in that position, I think the Parliament resolution are good for normal roundtable discussions. We will not be able to achieve much. And we have to keep in mind the economic cost of whether, firstly, we are able to do it or not. And second thing also, which I have not put in this, is that when we get that, then do what? You get some area of Aksai Chin with you, as per your claim line, then do what with it? You have to be sensitive to that also. Are we in a position to make a population settle down? Because borders ultimately are connected with population, economy, resources. In this area, the only resource is Indus River, which flows from China into India. Rest all rivers are this. And Indus also exits India from Batalik. So if we dam Indus, which we have done in certain areas for power requirement, there is nothing much that we are getting from those areas. Some people say that there is rare earth material. Rare earth is a fashionable statement these days. Everybody says they're rare earth. Everything is rare these days. And last is a negotiated barter of territory based on our strategic visualization. This is what options we have on our table, and we have to look at this. I have gone into detail of barter of territory. In the next slide, I'll show it to you. Okay, so this is the northern sector. I've divided Aksai Chin into three sectors: the north, the central, and the southern. So if you see the northern sector, it is between the international boundary or the LAC that is reflected in two lines on top to the black line that is coming to a purple line. This is extended from kilometer 120, where the border comes closest. This is the area where it is closest, is the famous area of Galwan, the 120 kilometer, and it goes further north to Karakoram Pass. Now this area is devoid of population. There is no population here. The only people who populate this area are military personnel, ITBP, and some people who have been brought from the mainland to do work on the road. So we have to look at this area, and there are three disputed areas in this: Trigait, Samar Lumpa, and Depsang Bulge. Now, as far as Depsang Bulge is concerned, it has also got a story. In 1962, they took it, they went back. Then again, they came up, they constructed a road there, and they're sitting there. So, good about 900 square kilometer territory is already with them. Now, are we in a position to remove them from them? Now, this is a decision which somebody has to take. But from a military point of view, this is super high altitude. A tenure of 3 months is maximum you can tenate there. More than 3 months, humanly, you cannot live in this area because of deep vein thrombosis. Your hemoglobin will go up and you will have to exit. So if that is the thing one has to keep in mind, and in this area only you have the famous airfield and the place by the name of Daulat Beg Oldie, DBO. Now, who was DBO? This is also interesting. This area is known as Daulat Beg Oldie, but who was he? He was not an Indian. And they're saying that treasures are hidden in this area. People are still, at least people who are aware of it, they try to go and dig, but they're not been able to find treasure. So there is a Chip-Chap corridor which flows from China into India, and this Chip-Chap merges at a place of Gapsham, merges with Shok River. Shok in layman is also known as Shok. The river actually changes its course, it's very unpredictable, and that river flows down and then meets Nubra and goes into Pakistan. So this is the geography of that area, and Remo Glacier is the glacier which comes into this, and this valley and the glacier are almost parallel to each other. And there is a road which we have tried to build from Sasoma, which goes to Gapsham, and it crosses a pass at around 18,000. To cross this road is a challenge, and you can't take vehicles, it's difficult. So there are I would say, technological challenges, there are equipment challenges, and there are human sustenance challenges in this area. So one has to debate how does it help. We have been good in connecting this area. We have been this Daulat Beg, Durbuk Daulat Beg Oldie Road is a road that has got connected now till DBO, so we can maintain our forces there. But to my mind, this area is suitable for exchange of certain areas which are tactically and strategically more important for us. So I have put here that if you look at in the south, we go to the center area, we'll see that. If you look at in the central sector, you have the area of Dumshale. Now, central sector is between the two black lines, that is from kilometer 120 to Tenchok, if you see the green patch. Now, Dumshale is a very interesting place. You have the Kailash range, which we say is the border, and Dumshale is on our side of Kailash range. And Dumshale is a big Chinese post. And they came, they established this post post 1962, and they never went back. And then there is Indus River, which flows into India from Denchok and goes into India. So he gets a very good view of what is happening in Indian territory. And the Indus Valley is the only grazing area which is available to this population of graziers, around 6,000 of them. And those are the one who goes close to Dumshale at times and are shooed away. So perhaps we can ask the Chinaman to go back in exchange of something else, because his presence in Dumshale is tactically and strategically a problem, and it will remain. So it's a thorn as far as we are concerned. Coming to Tenchok. Tenchok is an area which has already got hardened. Where we are sitting there, very difficult to be dislodged. And where they are sitting, they have got a huge camp. I don't think it's easy to dislodge them also. Incidentally, for everyone's information, Chinese do not have defenses in complete Aksai Chin. They have not dug like us. Most of the areas in 2020, they started digging a little bit, but that too where the engagement was there. We have defenses. They have not made defenses. So Denchok is an area where we can say that, okay, we'll maintain status quo. And giving away some, taking some makes sense. Particularly Dumshale is it's going to be a strategic victory if we get that back. I've given certain other measures that you can have, patrolling. You can declare an area, particularly in north. You can say that, okay, the area will be used for civil expedition, but no military activity from both the sides. They also have a challenge. From Western Highway to come along Chipchap corridor, average height is 16,000 feet. And it is 100 kilometer plus that they have to travel. So for them to maintain force, they also have a challenge. It is not that. Perhaps a solution has to be discussed amongst the military people before it is thrashed at the political level. Next, the southern sector. Okay, a word about central sector. This is the only area where you have some population of rebus. Otherwise, along the border, in the northern area, there is none except for the area of Tangse and Durbuk. In the central area, you have Chumar, you have Dumti, you have Koyul or Fukche, you have the area of Chumar, which is populated, but very sparsely populated, and the famous Saga village where I was living. And Saga is vacated for about 7 months in a year and got a population of 300 odd people. Why people are still there? Because at some point in time when things were good, the smuggling used to happen. And you would have people who have served in those areas, you would have worn or seen those jackets with fur hair, which used to come from China and were very popular in India. So a lot of things used to go from here and there. Also in central sector, what just go back. What I am recommending is that Denchok should become a trading point. Denchok and Dumchale were the areas from where most of the trade used to happen with China or Tibet. So you break the nexus that China is trying to develop in the north of Shaksgam Valley, because this is easier, shorter, faster. And this will also bring in a little bit of economic prosperity amongst the Ladakhi population. And also population on the other side. Shikwana is equally bad. It is not that they are very prosper on the other side. Okay, next slide. Next. Now southern. Go to the next southern. Okay. In southern sector, the only problem area is tumor. And tumor also came up in 2014. Prior to that, tumor was not a problem. And tumor has got a very small population. The position there are again firmed up. Our position and the Chinese position are firmed up. We are in an advantageous position in tumor. That is a place where we have our position is, I would say, more favorable for operation reasons. So I think tumor a status quo can be maintained there. And we can agree that 5 kilometers, because there is hardly any population in this area. The closest populated area is Hanle. And behind Hanle is the famous So Murari Lake, which is a tourist spot. And that is good about 70 kilometers behind. So there is hardly any population in this area. So we can have a buffer zone created in between on both sides. It will help both the sides. Next slide. Coming to the way ahead. Next. So we have to look at, there exists a narrative. The narrative impacts the quality of the nation. So when you talk about, a barter, exchange, a negotiated exchange, there are going to be blowback. So it has to be managed. Now, how the narrative has got built over a period of time, because everybody says China is an enemy, China is an enemy. But if you really analyze, it's the only neighbor that we have not exchanged fire with after 1962. Leaving aside certain incidents, we have actually not, either there is a very good understanding, or there is I would say, a better rules of engagement which are being followed by both the sides. Strategic hierarchy also is impacted to a great extent by the same narrative that I'm talking about. That no, territory is very important. I accept territory is very important. But what are you going to do with additional territory? That is my question. If you get Shaksgam Valley, can you put your troops there? That is what one has to answer. If you get Chip Chap corridor, are you going to go and put the troops there and then do what? Are you going to invade Tibet? So that is what one has to look at. That this strategic hierarchy is also, it is touch me not. The moment you say discuss China, nobody says no, territory don't discuss. And we've had many speakers who we've heard who come, who debate very regularly. Territory exchange is something which we cannot talk about, but we've done the same with Bangladesh. If we could do with Bangladesh, why can't we do here? And it's a small region of our complete border. Then you have groups like China Study Group, Intelligentsia, Opinion Maker. They all sit in comfortable environments. Most of them have not been in these areas, and they start saying, we must fight, protect our territory, and gain more in case possible. China Study Group, incidentally, is a very powerful body which gives, policy guidelines for managing our relationship with China. It is, I would say, a hostage to a narrative. What I am speaking will not be palatable to them. So that is what I'm saying, that there is a requirement to address this, and there is a problem here which we must confront. Population at large. I lost a keychain very recently because it had some knives and other things, small, very small. My car keychain, by mistake, I carried it to Bangalore. While leaving Delhi airport, nobody checked me. So it remained in my bag. While returning, it got caught. And they made me remove and throw it. So I had to throw it, part away with it. I've been hunting for an Indian manufactured keychain. As a policy since 2020, I have taken a decision not to buy anything made in China. But I failed. population in India does not consider China as an enemy. Whether it's good or bad is debatable. But in the heights of 2020, when things were bad and when there was a lot of euphoria in the nation, opinion building, yet people are buying Chinese stuff. Today, the trade stands of $138 billion. It crossed last year's $125 billion and it is growing. Now, who gets impacted by this opinion? The local population. They are in the same state. Ribus have been living in those triangular tents since the independence. They continue to live like that. Border guarding force, it is affected. There are permanent scars which people come back with. Trade, business, economy, it cannot take place in a situation where borders are not. And political elected representatives there in that region, they cannot do much for their population. So this is how the narrative presently exists. And what is the counter? Everybody talks about political cost. What happened after 1962? There was no change of government. The government remained the same. What happened after Finger 4? I am highlighting the incident of Finger 4. The road from Khurnag Fort to Finger 8, Finger 7, Finger 6, Finger 5, and up to Finger 4 was constructed in 2000 when Indian Army was engaged in Kargil. Whatever little force was there was withdrawn and taken to tackle the Kargil problem. And that is the opportunity Chinese took, and they built a road because they wanted their troops to be, be able in a position to react fast to reach an area which they claim as theirs. Then Depsang. Depsang, a road got constructed, was occupied in 2013. Where were we? Depsang had a little ITBP presence. There was no army there. And today we say this area is very important. We need more. Tumor happened in 2014. Whatever the incident, small incident happened in 2014. And coming to Galwan. So I am highlighting this incident. What happened after then? Some of you don't even know that something has happened here. So does it really, is there a political cost attached to it? To my mind, it's debatable. So we are looking at two large economies. They are competitors. Look at the GDP difference today. This is not 9 trillion, this is 19 trillion. There is a mistake here. China today is 19 trillion plus, we are around 4 trillion plus. Trade with China stands at 138 billion, it is not trillion, my mistake. And the deficit is towards, deficit is to us more than 100 billion. Defense budget variation is huge. China is in for modernization and our defense budget 79 billion. China's stated budget is 300 billion, but actually it spends much more. Technology leadership, you have to grant it. Of course, we are not way behind, but China is leading in technology in many spheres. So, question about trust deficit. Again, there is a narrative that Chinese cannot be trusted, but we are willing to trust Pakistan. We had Aman Ki Asha with them. We had so many engagements with them. We had wars with them, but we are trusting Chinese. We are trusting Bangladeshis also, though we said 2.5 fronts. But we don't want to trust Chinese, with whom we have not fired a round after 1962. The LAC is perhaps the most stable border. If you look at the manning of the borders, we are much thickly deployed on our western border than the Chinese border. Then we talk about Chinese encirclement. China has got a stated policy of expansion. They are building their army for that. They are putting their 5th aircraft carrier in the sea. We don't talk about it. We say that we will be in our borders. We have no such ambitions. So if a nation stated an aspiration, ambition is there, then let it be. As long as they are not trying to expand in our territory, that is what we have to guard against. A word about salami slicing, which is talked a lot. Now, what is salami slicing? You have to understand. An area where there is no population, there's nobody living. If you go put a tent there, what happens? Nobody firstly comes to know for a long time. Then somebody detects and comes and tells you, you say, no, this is my area. This is what happens in a area which is not manned. And let me tell you, still there lies a lot of huge area with China which is not manned by us. So salami slicing will happen. It's difficult to control. So best is either to dominate such areas or have some kind of surveillance. Chinese have come up with very nice surveillance arrangements in Aksai Chin with their cameras deployed. I do not know how many of them are active, but the cameras are there virtually everywhere where they are seeing each part of the border. Perhaps that is what we are also trying to do. A word about border resolution sentiments. Now you look at from 1950 onwards till 1980-81, we had almost similar GDP. This is where the window of opportunity lied, actually, if you ask me. This is where we could have negotiated a border settlement, and this is where China also wanted a border settlement. And if you look at 1981 onwards, China has, as far as the GDP gap between us and China, it has only grown. It today is 19.4 trillion, is where China is. We are at around 4.1 trillion. So the contestation will only grow. And in future, though we are saying we are going to be 30 trillion in 1947, but China's stated policy is 1949, it has to be a world power. So we have to look at that. Best is try to resolve the issue before it goes beyond us. So here are certain recommendations that I have. We need to have a structured, phased approach grounded in military realism. The problem is in most of the talks which have happened with China till 2020, the military element was hardly present in that, or the military was hardly referred. It was mostly driven by the narrative that the nation had and people who were considered experts in this domain. There is a need to have diplomatic clarity and a firm political timeline. So military framework is the first thing that we must establish. We must establish a contour based on long-term national interest and impact on future operational capability. So to my mind, like I've been throughout in that area, if you give me Dumshale and take everything, I'm happy. Because that is the one place from where I can actually run into trouble. Balance areas, if we maintain status quo, it's good enough. There's no problem. Core commander talks, we need to have it in all the areas, thrash out our boundary issues in a fixed timeline. That is important. And we should have our red lines very clear that, okay, this is not given. So if it is not negotiable, we don't negotiate. But then we need to have that. We cannot be flexible on this. Like, to my mind, Dumshale is a red line. You go back, it's okay. But you say, no, I want up to Indus, not negotiable. Then in the third layer, get MEA and bureaucracy involved, because the military is the one which will give the correct perspective of what we want. And the MEA and bureaucracy thereafter will take it forward. Let it be vetted by academic input, build a positive narrative, and then have government to government engagement wherein we show a positiveness to resolve the problem. Otherwise, this will continue for next 25 years, 50 years, and every year adds to advantages in certain area, disadvantages in certain area. So certain parting thoughts that I have: political will should be non-negotiable. Once you made up a mind, then there is no negotiation. You develop your capacity for that. Then, if we have a political will which says that we have to take Aksai Chin, then we might well as work for it. Otherwise, you cannot have a stated political will and then not work for that. Military primacy and border management cannot be ignored. It is best understood, managed, and administered by the military only. Invest in capability and capacity. It is very important. With China, we have to, because China also understands power. They will respond to power better. You will have better negotiation capability in case our capability is good and our capacity to sustain, the stamina to last, it is important. We need to define a long-term vision. We cannot have a 2-year vision, 3 years, or an incident-based vision. Ki bhai ye ho gaya, we'll do this. No, we have to have a long-term vision. Diplomacy should be brought in as a strategic tool, and ground reality should drive engagements. So these are my parting thoughts. I think that if we align ourselves to a resolution based on a will to resolve, we can do it. And lastly, option to resolve border disputes are best suggested by those responsible to manage and administer them. It cannot be understood by somebody sitting in Delhi, seeing the maps and saying, no, 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 this is how it is. No, somebody has to be there, spend some time there, understood it, seen it from every perspective, and then said, okay, this is negotiable, this is not negotiable. I think this is what I have as far as the resolution of Aksai Chin is concerned. I'll take on any questions if there are.